The wind at the summit of Mount Nebo was sharp and dry, stirring the edges of Moses' worn robe as he stood, alone, on sacred rock. His eyes, dim yet undiminished by age, scanned the expanse before him. The promised land stretched like a painted canvas, the hills of Judah, the vineyards of Samaria, the silver thread of the Jordan River glinting in the sunlight. He did not move. He did not blink. The Lord had shown him everything. This is the land which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, came the voice. Not thunderous, not whispered, but resounding within every bone of his soul. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. Moses, the man who stood before Pharaoh, who saw the sea split, who spoke with God as a friend, fell to his knees. There were no tears, only peace. He whispered, Yahweh, you have been my dwelling place in all generations. Then something no eye recorded but heaven. The clouds thickened, the light dimmed, and down from the unseen realms came Michael, cloaked in brilliance, sword sheathed, his face grave with divine assignment. He hovered. He waited. Then the voice of the Almighty echoed once more. He is mine. Michael bowed. And there in a hidden valley near Beth Peor, shielded from both time and man, the Archangel buried Moses. Not with stone, not with ceremony, but with light. The burial was not witnessed by Israel, not by Joshua, not even by the stars, only Michael and another. From the deep shadows of the mountains, a watching presence stirred. A crooked smile crept over a fallen face. Lucifer had arrived too late, but he would not stop trying. Thousands of years later, the soil remained untouched. No blade had pierced it, no spade had scraped its crust. But the prophecy slept, waiting for one curious soul to awaken what should never have been found. Jerusalem, present day. The underground chamber beneath the old city was suffocating, narrow, dimly lit, and littered with stone fragments that hadn't been touched in centuries. Dust hung in the air like ghostly memories. Most tourists would never see this place. Most archaeologists weren't allowed this deep. But Dr. Elias Rayam wasn't most archaeologists. His fingers brushed along the sandstone wall until they caught on a strange indentation. A seam, vertical and thin. He exhaled slowly, eyes narrowing, then reached into his satchel for a worn chisel. With each careful strike, fragments fell like echoes. Then suddenly, a hollow thud. Behind the wall was something, hidden intentionally. Elias widened the opening until he could reach inside. His hand returned with a small, tightly wound scroll encased in a cracked copper tube. Ancient, sacred. The moment he touched it, the atmosphere shifted. That night, in his study overlooking the Temple Mount, Elias unrolled the scroll with trembling hands. It was written in a fusion of Paleo-Hebrew and a language he'd only seen referenced once, in a banned manuscript in the Vatican's apocryphal codex. The scroll read, "And he buried the prophet where the valley drank no blood, beneath the breath of God, east of the shining mountain, a place sealed by light, where angels stood guard until the day of reckoning." His heart pounded. This is a reference to Moses' tomb. Impossible. Every rabbi, every scholar had repeated the same truth. No man knows where he was buried. But this scroll wasn't written by man. In the margin, a single sigil stood out, inked in gold that hadn't dulled with age. The name of Michael, written in angelic script. Elias stepped back, stunned. The lamp beside him flickered. Then it shattered. A cold wind blew through the closed window. And for a moment, just a moment, The shadow on the wall behind him was not his own. Elias didn't sleep that night. He tried, but every time his eyes drifted shut, the same image returned. A valley split by light, a tomb sealed not by stone but by fire, and a voice that vibrated through marrow like a tuning fork of heaven. By 3 a.m., his room felt smaller, like the walls had shifted closer. The scroll lay open on the desk, glowing faintly in the candlelight. It called to him, not with sound, but with gravity. Every time he looked away, something pulled his attention back to it. Finally, unable to resist, Elias approached it again. That's when the room changed. The candle went out, not with a flicker, but as if swallowed whole. The floor beneath him became distant. He was no longer in Jerusalem. He stood in a void, black, endless, but far from empty. From above, a pillar of fire descended, burning yet not consuming. Within the flames stood a being of terrifying beauty, robes woven with stars, eyes like living sapphire, wings stretching into infinity. Michael. But this was not the gentle archangel of paintings. This was the warrior, the one who had cast down Lucifer, the one who once guarded the tomb of a prophet with a sword of fire. Michael's voice was both command and plea. Elias, son of Reuben, you tread where even angels whisper in caution. Elias knelt instinctively, his words caught in his throat. The body you seek is not dust and bones. It is covenant. It is unfinished war. Elias dared to speak. Then why show me the path? Michael's eyes flared. Because the adversary already watches you. The moment you open that scroll, you lit a beacon in the unseen. He desires the body for deception, to wear the name of Moses in the last days. You must bury this quest. But then, Michael hesitated. His gaze softened. Unless you believe you were chosen. And with that, he vanished, swallowed by flame. Elias jolted awake back in his apartment. The candle was untouched, but across the scroll, now seared into the parchment, was a new word, not ink, but burn mark. Contender. His hands trembled. The warning was clear. The choice wasn't. 2 weeks later, Madaba, Jordan. The sun scorched the red soil of the Jordanian plateau. Dust clung to boots, to brows, and to memory. Dr. Elias Ram squinted as the silhouette of Mount Nebo rose ahead, its ancient ridges shrouded in heat haze. The land hadn't changed much since Moses' time, barren, dry, silent. But something stirred beneath. Beside him walked Layla Mahfouz, his former student turned research partner. Fluent in 6 ancient tongues, she was sharp, skeptical, and utterly irreplaceable. You dragged me to the desert over a scroll and a dream, she asked. Not just a dream, Elias replied, holding out the printout. These coordinates. They were burned into the scroll after the vision. Layla frowned, inspecting the GPS. Latitude 31.7671 degrees north, longitude 35.7267 degrees east. It was just east of the Mount Nebo ridge, terrain largely unexplored due to unstable rock formations. They set camp at the base of a narrow ravine, where the winds moaned unnaturally through cracks in the cliff face. As night fell, they began their descent into the valley, one unnamed on modern maps, yet spoken of in whispers by Bedouin elders as Al-Wadi Al-Khatim, the Sealed Valley. By lamplight, Layla noticed something peculiar. These etchings, they're not natural erosion. Elias knelt beside her. There in the wall of the canyon was a worn engraving, barely visible. A pair of wings crossed over a sword, encircled by ancient glyphs. It matched the symbol from the scroll. "This place is marked," he whispered. "Or protected," Layla muttered. As they pressed deeper into the ravine, a sudden gust howled from within, warm and foul, as if something ancient exhaled. Then, the earth trembled. Not a quake, a pulse. The rocks ahead parted slightly, revealing a slab of obsidian buried beneath centuries of sand. Embedded in its center, a circular indentation like a seal once locked by divine hand. Layla stepped back. "That's not geology, that's a doorway." Elias reached into his pack, pulling the scroll. The angelic sigil pulsed faintly. A storm brewed above, swirling dark clouds over the mountain. They had found it, but something knew they had come. Vatican archives, sub-level C restricted access. A key turned in a lock that hadn't been opened in over 50 years. Cardinal Matteo Valerio, a man more ghost than clergyman, descended the narrow marble staircase into the depths of the Holy See. He moved past portraits of saints and inquisitors, beneath the Latin carvings warning trespassers of divine judgment. His hands, though wrinkled with age, were steady. He knew why he was summoned. He'd been expecting this day since 1974. At the bottom of the archive vault was a vault within a vault, coded, shielded, forgotten by most, but not all. He inserted a ring-shaped device. It scanned his finger. The door clicked. Inside lay a sealed chest marked with only one label: Deuteronomy 34, Beth Peor case. He opened it. Inside was a faded leather dossier, brittle with age. Dozens of documents, a photo, a map, a hand-drawn sketch of Mount Nebo with a black circle, almost exactly where Dr. Elias Rham now stood. The Vatican had known. The file dated back to 1937, when a Jesuit expedition under Pope Pius XI had uncovered evidence of angelic seals in Moab. The final report bore 3 words in blood-red ink: "Tomb inviolate, danger absolute." But it wasn't just angels they feared. Inside the file was a black and white photograph, blurry but unmistakable. The face of a man, eyes blank, expression calm, lying preserved in a glowing sarcophagus. The note below it read, "Body is incorrupt, unaging, no decay. Moses?" And beside it, scribbled in the margin by an unknown cardinal, "Not for man to disturb. Satan contends for it still." Cardinal Matteo closed the file. He looked to the ceiling and whispered, "It has begun again, hasn't it?" With trembling hands, he picked up a phone buried beneath layers of dust. "Activate the contingency. Elias Rham has found the valley." On the other end, a voice answered, "We warned them not to look." Far away in Jordan, Elias and Layla stood before the obsidian seal. But back in the Vatican, powers both divine and fallen had begun to stir. For once again, man had touched what heaven had hidden. Midnight, the sealed valley, Moab. The desert slept uneasily. Winds howled between jagged cliffs like the groans of old spirits. The night was starless, the sky suffocated by a swirling black shroud. A presence hovered over the land, ancient, watchful, waiting. Dr. Elias Rham stood before the obsidian slab, tracing its cold, polished surface with bare fingers. Layla held a lantern behind him, its flame flickering violently despite the still air. "We shouldn't be here," she said again, voice tight. Elias nodded, not in agreement, but understanding. "I think something is deciding whether we're worthy to pass." Just then, a voice from the dark. "No one is worthy." They spun around. 5 men stood at the edge of the canyon, robed in coarse black, faces hidden beneath cowled hoods. Their presence was unnatural, as though they had stepped from stone, not from shadow. One stepped forward. "You trespass on sealed ground." "Who are you?" Elias asked. "We are the Watchers of Beth Peor, guardians of the grave that belongs to no man." Layla stepped closer to Elias. "How long have you been guarding this?" The man answered without pause. "Since Michael sealed the light beneath, since the body was laid in covenant fire." Elias, heart pounding, raised the scroll. The watchers froze. One of them whispered, "The fire-burned name. He bears it." The leader stepped forward and lifted his hood. His face was marked with strange sigils, glowing faintly under the moonless sky. His eyes were pale, nearly white. "You were not meant to find this place, Elias, but now that you have, you must make a choice. Turn back, or face what guards the tomb." Suddenly, a sound rose, low and mournful. A chorus of voices began to echo from the canyon walls. Not human. They chanted in a tongue older than Eden. Then, silence. And from the far end of the valley, a mist began to creep, thick and shimmering like a veil torn between dimensions. Layla whispered in terror, "Those aren't clouds." Shapes moved within, robed figures floating above the sand. Their faces were blank, their mouths open in silent wails. The leader of the Watchers dropped to his knees. "The spirits have awakened. The valley drinks again. The seal is loosening." "You must finish what Michael began." Elias turned to Layla. "We go forward, now, before it's too late." And together they stepped through the veil into the mist of the dead valley, where the body of Moses lay untouched, and untouched for a reason. The mist clung to their skin like ice and incense. Every step deeper into the hidden chamber felt like walking through a dream or a trap. There was no sound now, not even the wind. The world had narrowed to stone, silence, and secrets long buried. Elias and Layla descended into a hollow carved beneath the earth, led by the Watchers of Beth Peor. The path was not dug, but formed, as if shaped by forces far beyond human hands. Intricate markings lined the walls, angelic symbols glowing faintly, as if lit by memory, not fire. And then they arrived, a circular chamber, perfect in shape, lit by an unseen light that cast no shadows. At its center, a golden sarcophagus, smooth, unmarked, hovering inches above the stone floor, held aloft by nothing visible. Layla gasped. "It's floating." The leader of the Watchers stepped forward and placed his hand upon the air just above the sarcophagus. The moment he did, a ring of heavenly fire ignited around the tomb, not burning, not consuming, but protective, contained, alive. "This is the mercy flame," he whispered, "Michael's last seal." Elias was breathless. "He's inside?" The Watcher nodded solemnly. "The body of Moses, untouched, unaged. The Lord hid him and bound him to time itself. He sleeps until the trumpet call." Layla stepped forward, staring through the transparent flame. Her breath caught in her throat. There, within the sarcophagus, was a man, Moses, his face serene, his skin unbroken, his body radiant as though light itself had preserved it. No decay, no death. "He looks alive," she whispered. The Watcher turned. "That's because he is, in part." Suddenly, the flames flickered. The light in the chamber dimmed. A wind, not from this world, howled through the tomb. The Watchers turned sharply. "They are here." "Who?" Elias asked, his voice rising. From the entrance of the chamber, black forms began to crawl in, shadows with eyes, shapes that moved like smoke, ancient, fallen. The adversary has sent his servants. He wants the body, said the watcher. He always has. Why? Layla shouted over the rising wind. Because to take the body of Moses is to wear the face of the lawgiver, to deceive even the elect, to twist prophecy, to counterfeit Messiah. The seal shuddered, the mercy flame dimmed, and just as the darkness surged inward, a sword of blinding light split the chamber. Michael had returned, his wings unfolded like a thunderclap. His sword gleamed with the fire of Eden. Touch him, the archangel declared, and I will cast you into the abyss. The chamber became a war zone of dimensions, silent to the human ear, but roaring in the realm beyond. And in the center, untouched and undisturbed, the body of Moses remained, sleeping, waiting. The air cracked like thunder, though no storm brewed above. Michael stood alone between the golden sarcophagus and the crawling shadows that now filled the tomb. His wings stretched wide, blazing white and rippling with invisible power. His face, once calm, was now set with heavenly fury. Around him, the watchers dropped to their knees. Layla clung to Elias, who was frozen in awe, caught between terror and reverence. The unseen world had broken through, and they were witnesses to a cosmic conflict unseen by most of mankind. From the far edge of the chamber, the shadows gathered into a single form. A figure stepped forward, tall, cloaked, its face veiled in smoke, but the presence was unmistakable. Lucifer, Michael said. The fallen archangel didn't deny it. You can't keep him forever, brother, he hissed. You buried him once. But man dug again. The seal weakens. The prophecy approaches. Michael's grip tightened on his sword. This body is not yours. Oh, but it will be, Lucifer whispered, circling the chamber. Imagine the world, led by a Moses reborn, speaking with fire, calling down plagues, deceiving kings. The people would follow. The false lawgiver, my puppet. He turned to Elias. And you, child of dust, you opened the gate, you lit the path. The scroll chose you, and now I thank you. Elias staggered back, trembling. Michael raised his sword and, with a voice that echoed across eternity, declared, "The Lord rebuke you!" In a flash, the war ignited, not with metal or flesh, but with light and word, flame and truth. Angels descended like lightning, their weapons singing through the air. Demonic forms howled as they struck at the mercy flame, seeking to extinguish it. Elias and Layla were shielded, a dome of divine light holding them just outside the battle. Yet even behind the barrier, they wept from the weight of holiness and horror before them. Time fractured, space bent, and at the center, Moses, still and peaceful, remained untouched. Michael struck with a fury that shook the earth. With a cry, he drove Lucifer backward, sword cleaving through shadow. The fallen one snarled, retreating, wounded but not defeated. "This changes nothing," Lucifer spat as he vanished into smoke. "You delay the inevitable." And then, silence. The mercy flame brightened again. The watchers stood, the chamber sealed. Michael looked down at Elias and Layla, his sword now sheathed. The war is not over, but for now, he rests. "Why did God hide him?" Layla asked softly. Michael's gaze pierced through her. Because the world was not ready for what he carried. He was more than a prophet. He was a sign. And one day the world will want him back, but it will not be him they receive. He turned, wings folding. "Some graves are seals." As quickly as he came, the archangel vanished, and Elias understood. They hadn't found a tomb. They had stepped into a battlefield older than time. Title: The Place No Man Can Reach. The chamber fell silent. The light of the mercy flame flickered softly now, no longer a defense but a gentle guardian, as though Moses himself had returned to sleep beneath its glow. The watchers bowed their heads in reverence. Layla sat on the floor, exhausted, her hands shaking. Elias stared at the golden sarcophagus, struggling to breathe through the weight of what he had witnessed. Michael was gone. The adversary repelled, but the cost of curiosity lingered in the air. "What now?" Layla finally whispered. One of the watchers approached, the elder who had first warned them. His face was marked by age, not years, but centuries of guardianship. "You saw what no man should see," he said solemnly. "You must now do what no man has done. Seal the tomb. Again." Elias blinked. "I'm just a man. How can I?" "You were chosen not for strength," the watcher said, "but for obedience." The watchers knelt in a circle around the sarcophagus. One by one, they began to chant, not with words, but vibrations of spirit. The symbols on the walls lit up in sequence, forming a sacred geometric pattern across the chamber floor. Elias was handed the scroll. The sigil of Michael at its center now burned faintly, pulsing, waiting. "Read the final line," the watcher instructed. "Speak the seal." Elias looked down. His lips moved slowly, reverently. "Hide him again, O Lord of hosts, until the day of thunder." The chamber shuddered. The sarcophagus began to descend, not into earth, but into light. It melted downward as if swallowed by divine dimension, wrapped in fire, song, and glory. And when it was gone, the tomb was stone once more. No doorway, no flame, just a cold, hollow chamber in the heart of a forgotten valley. Outside, dawn was breaking. The first light of morning painted the cliffs gold. The mist had vanished. The valley was quiet. Elias and Layla stood at the edge of the ravine, looking back one last time. "We can't tell anyone," she said quietly. Elias nodded. "No one would believe us. And if they did, they'd come looking. And next time," Layla added, "they might not be worn." They began the hike out of the valley. No evidence, no relics, no photographs. Just memory and mystery. Far above them, an eagle soared across the rising sun. And far beneath, in a chamber no map would ever mark, the servant of God slept once more, guarded not by man, but by covenant. Jerusalem, 1 month later. The city buzzed with life as always, prayers at the western wall, pilgrims weaving through the market streets, and tourists tracing ancient steps with cameras and curiosity. But for Dr. Elias Reham, the city felt quieter, lonelier, and heavier. He hadn't spoken about the tomb, not to scholars, not to journalists, not even to Layla, who had since gone silent after their return. Whatever they had seen had changed them both. In the quiet of his study, Elias sat before a single candle. The scroll, once a glowing map, now lay blank. The ink had faded, the sigils erased, almost as if it had never existed. Only his memory remained. He opened his leather journal, weathered and familiar, and began to write. There are things man was not meant to unearth, mysteries that protect more than they conceal. I set out to find history and found a battlefield. The world is not ready for Moses. If his tomb had been discovered, it would have been desecrated, politicized, weaponized. What should inspire awe would spark war. What should lead to repentance would birth deception. He paused. Then he wrote his final words. The body of Moses sleeps. guarded, hidden, buried not in earth, but in obedience. And perhaps that is where all truth should lie, in the hands of the one who gave it. He tore the page from the journal, lit a match, and burned it. Outside, the call to prayer echoed across rooftops. Life moved on, unaware. But in the secret halls of the Vatican, a red file was reopened. In the mountains of Moab, the watchers kept their vigil, and somewhere between dimensions, a tomb remained untouched, unmarked, unaged, unbroken, awaiting the day of thunder. Was Elias right to bury the truth? Or should the world have known what lay beneath the dust of Beth Peor? Who decides what truths are too dangerous to uncover? Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this.